Hello, and welcome to episode number 25 of the Marriage Coach Podcast, where we are here to help you take your relationship from surviving to thriving. Today on the Marriage Coach Podcast, we will be discussing in sickness and in health. On the last Marriage Coach Podcast episode, we shared with you that my husband tested positive for COVID-19 and that I was negative. And so this week, we wanted to come back and give you all an update on where we are today and, the things that we have experienced over the last few days as he has began to recover from COVID. He is now feeling much better, and we thank God for that. And so we
Yes.
just wanted to come on here and talk to the Marriage Coach listeners and everyone that joins us every week and just give you a little bit insight. We want to share, we want to give you insight and helpful tips for what we experienced and what we endured and how we were able to work through dealing with COVID, as well as we thought about my husband was diagnosed with thyroid disease a few years back, and God healed him from that. And even just thinking about COVID, we kind of thought back to dealing with that ordeal. So that's what we're going to discuss today on the Marriage Coach podcast.
Right. And first, I just want to take this moment, just to thank all the prayer warriors, all the family and friends that prayed for me. Right now, I'm probably about 90% recovered. I really don't have a sense of taste and a sense of smell at the moment. I still have a slight cough every now and then. So if I cough during the podcast, forgive me. I can't contaminate you through the camera. So yeah, COVID-19 definitely. It's nothing to play with. COVID-19 is serious and COVID-19 is real. The experience I experienced with COVID-19, is for example, if you haven't had the flu before, imagine the flu on steroids. It's pretty bad. It's so unpredictable. The whole journey has been like a roller coaster ride. One minute I'm doing good, one minute I'm thinking it's almost over. Then the next thing you know, I feel like, oh my goodness, feel like all I want to do is sleep. All the energy just drained drained from the inside of me. So it's definitely been an experience, and I thank God that I didn't get the severe side of it. But even what I experienced, it's nothing. I wouldn't wish this on anyone. It's definitely a difficult virus to live with.
Absolutely. And when we were talking as we were preparing for, the Marriage Coach podcast and we were thinking about what we wanted to share with our listeners, we were talking about the experience, just the two of us. We were talking about how um for one moment, you were okay, you woke up and you felt good and you was working on online and you were around the house doing different things and just moving about, and then within minutes, the very next thing was like you're laying on the couch and you're having shivers and you have a fever and your head is hurting like out of
Yeah,
control. So when we were talking, when you began to feel better and we started talking about the process, we just were talking about how quickly, with sickness, how quickly things can change and how
yeah,
quickly your day can go from we're okay, we're feeling better and we're having a good day, we're moving forward, we're coming out of this, and then it's all of a sudden like, oh, you're backwards and it's starting all over again. And as we talked about it, when you began to feel better and we started thinking about the whole ordeal or the battle that you had
right,
with your thyroid, and I started to think about there was one day in particular with COVID where I was thinking about this is kind of how I felt when he went into the hospital with the thyroid thing. It's like, what is
right,
gonna happen? It was that day that you were just like sleeping. You were sleeping, and I mean hours had went by and you were balled up on the couch and you were sleeping, and I'm looking from across the room And I'm just like, is he sleeping too much? Should I wake him up? Is he
Yeah.
sleeping enough? And it's all of these things going through your head. And it also,
Yeah.
made me think about, and I think I shared on the last podcast when we told about the test results. It made me think about when we went to the hospital with your thyroid thing. It was like
Yeah.
you had a trip to the ER, and that went from a trip to the ER to being transported to the main Methodist hospital. And,
Yeah.
that was a 2-day hospital stay.
And just to give a little bit of example of that, so when I was rushed to the hospital, then my heart rate was jumping from 180 to right around 200. So my heart rate was extremely high, and it's very dangerous cardio experience. So I just want to give that detail. Continue,
Right,
sweetie.
right, right. And so that day, that was, in a few moments, it went from,
Yeah,
we were getting ready for a church picnic and you started sweating profusely. And then
yeah,
your Apple Watch went crazy telling us that your heart rate was going up. And for one moment, everybody was like, oh, maybe the watch is malfunctioning. And
hmm,
then this trip to the ER, we thought it was an urgent care, but it was a small ER. And this trip to the ER led to you being
yeah.
moved to the main hospital and a 2-day hospital stay. And then it was maybe a year or so, or a year and a half of medication and doctor's appointments and back and forth. And
About 2 years.
yeah, so
About two
just
years.
thinking about COVID, when the whole COVID experience happened, these last few days of you experiencing with COVID, that kind of took me back to that. And there was in the very beginning when you had those nights when you were very, very sick, it took me back to that place of thinking about, what is this going to mean for us? If he has to go to the hospital, we're at a time where, he would have to go by himself.
Yeah,
If this happens, then I'm not going to be able to be there for him. I'm not going to be able to know what's going on, because when you were in the hospital last time, I'm like, I'm not leaving. I need to know
yeah,
what's going on. I need to be here. And just thinking about the mental, the physical, the emotional taxing that a sickness brings to a relationship. I even remember one night you weren't feeling good, during this COVID experience, and you were like, you felt alone because you were in the living room by yourself. So maybe you can talk about that a little bit. You're in the room all by yourself and you're sick, but you're by yourself.
That is, yeah, that really it sucks because I have to say, because a lot of times, whether it's you or me, when you're dealing with your female issues, or if I'm sick or anything like that, I mean, we kind of, I may rub your back, if you're in pain. I mean, you do the same thing for me. And in this particular case, that was out of the question, because we had to stay away from each other. And I mean, here it is. I mean, as human beings, we're not meant to do life by ourselves in the
Right, right,
beginning.
right.
And as a married couple, I mean, we had to do that. I mean, for the last, it's getting close to 2 weeks now, because this is almost over with, and I can't wait. I can't wait till it's over with. But man, people, we are meant to be together. And say, a married couple,
Mhm,
today's podcast is sickness and in health. In
mhm.
sickness and in health, I mean that part. I've done plenty of witness in sickness and in health until death do us part. And it's like, I mean, this whole sickness and in health, I mean, I'm sick. You have to deal with the illness itself, and then you have to deal with the fact of you being alone.
Right, right, right. And then for the spouse and the person, like for us, I tested negative, and so therefore we had to stay away from each other as much as possible. And when we were around each other, we had to have on mask, and we still were social distancing when we were in the same room. And so to see you, balled up on the couch, or you laying on the couch and you under all this cover, and one minute you're
Yeah,
shivering, the next minute your head is hurting. So, I'm trying to assist and help where I can, but then I can't. And I just, when we were talking about it after you started to feel better, I was just thinking about the emotional part of it. It's physical, it's emotional, it's mental for both parties. And
yeah,
it's different for you. Like for you, it was more of the, I'm going through this alone, and where my wife would normally be here to comfort me. And the craziest thing of all is, like, I'm in the same house with you. It's not like I can't be here, because I am here, but I can't comfort you. And then on my part is like, I want to comfort him, I want to take care of him, but then I
yeah,
also have to stay away because I don't want to get sick, and I don't
yeah,
want to get COVID. So it's like, it's what kind of the thing we say in human nature is a catch 22. And I agree. We were not designed to do life alone. God created us to do life together. And then being a married couple, and the way we do things, we're always there for each other. And
Yeah.
even when I was thinking about when you were sick with the thyroid disease, I was there. You were in the hospital. I was
Uh-huh.
there to be by your side anytime I'm sick, every month, whatever it is, whether it's cramps, whether it's pain, whether it's a
Right.
headache, whether I've had the flu before, I've had times where I just didn't feel good, a virus, a
Yeah.
sinus infection, whatever it is, you've been there for me. You're there to comfort me. You're there to get juice for me. You're there to rub my back, to change my socks if you have to. And all of that changed because of this sickness, this battle that we faced together, but separate. We
Yeah.
faced it together, but separate.
Yeah, and the fact, and this is the thing. I mean, just I mean, like I said, I never went to the hospital. I mean, so imagine that. That's a whole nother level of experience that we did not even experience the whole time. I mean, we're in the same house together, but it's man. Man, my heart goes out to that family.
Yes.
That they have to separate from their family, and you don't know exactly what's going on. For example, if you want to know how I was doing, all you had to do was just peep into the living room and
Mhm.
look in.
Those that are having the hospital experience, they don't get that. They have to wait for someone to call or wait for someone to answer the phone to give them that update. And we were
Right.
when we started talking about this, I was thinking about how mentally taxing COVID would be on a couple, on a family when your significant other is separated. Like you said, it's the thought of me um looking in the room and being able to, even though I can't come close to you, being able to
Yeah.
look into the room and see that, okay, he's still okay. He's
Hmm.
breathing. He's
Yeah.
not, he's not coughing a lot. It seems to be that when you were sleeping, I was feeling like you were getting rest because there was no coughing, there was no headache. It was like you were just out. So that's good. But when I couldn't imagine being the spouse that's waiting, okay, I'm gonna have to wait another hour or two before I can call back. I'm gonna have to wait
Yeah.
another hour or two for them to call back. That would be that's emotional, even more emotionally draining and more mentally draining. And then, for the person that's at home, they're physically drained as well as the person that's experienced the sickness because you're staying up, you're checking the phone. You probably can't sleep well because you're waiting for the phone call and hoping that things don't get worse. And that's why it took me back to when you had the whole thyroid thing, because in those times it was like, I remember we were at a funeral and you literally was like, you were
Jesus
sick and
God.
you were like, babe, I'm freezing. We walked out of the funeral and it's in the summertime, it's burning up hot, and you were like, I'm freezing. And I was like, can you make it to the car? And you like, I just need to lay down. We left a funeral during the thyroid issue. You laid
Sitting
in
in
the
the
truck.
parking lot.
Yeah, you sat
Yeah.
in the truck in the parking lot, and I'm like, how are we gonna get home? Because I came from different events, so we were in two different cars, and just thinking about all of that, even during COVID, like, how do we operate? We have things to do, but it's just it's so much and it changes so fast, so much
Yeah.
and changes so fast. And it was just crazy. It was crazy. But I thank God that I that we both see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you're feeling better now. But it was even the days where there was your thyroid issue or the COVID, it still was times when I'm looking like, is he going to be okay? I want him to be okay. I don't want anything to happen to him. And at the same time, the other emotional, physical part, we got to keep everybody else safe. Everybody else that's testing negative, they got to stay safe. We got to keep them away. We got to rotate and do all of
Right.
these different things. So yes, it's an experience. And just thinking about what sickness does to a family, to a relationship, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So before we get into this, because the topic today is sickness and through sickness and in health.
Hmm.
But before we do that, I do want to say one more thing. So, if I can give you some tips on if you get this virus or you know someone had this virus, tell them to drink plenty of water.
Hmm.
Plenty of water. Drink as much water as you can because your body needs it. I mean, your body is fighting, trying to fight this infection. I mean, trying to fight this virus, and your body need every ammunition it can get. So your body need water. Make sure you have vitamin C. Vitamin C. Go get some elderberry. Elderberry is very good. For this, for dealing with COVID. And also, I took us some apple cider vinegar with mothers. I had lemon juice, made lemon tea with honey. And also, you want to make sure you have vitamin D. Vitamin D, because you want to get your immune system back up. Because, like I say, COVID-19 is draining you. It's draining you. It's draining you, and it's draining you. And you need all the vitamins you can get into your body. If you do come down and unfortunately catch COVID, these are some things you can do. I believe, the grace of God. The point is give your body something to fight with. When I was dealing with the thyroid issue, I remember there was a case when the medication I was taking medication for my heart, and I remember, and I'm not ashamed to say it, here on Marriage Coach Podcast, we say going to be as transparent as possible, because if we're not helping anyone. So here's the thing. I remember it was a moment, and I'm not talking 2 months, 3 months. I'm talking it was a period of time when I struggled with erectile dysfunction. And this is my manhood. So it was times, where it affect our lives dramatically. This thyroid disease, it affected our sex life. It affected my energy level. It affected my desire, and all these things through sickness and in health. This played a big part, in our marriage.
Absolutely. So yes, we when we started talking about COVID, the experience with COVID brought us to discussing, different sickness and different issues that we dealt with in our life, especially his thyroid issues that he had recently a few years back. And just thinking about the changes that happened in our life, it was a cause for us to adjust. You talked
Yeah,
about sex life, and with our sex life we had to adjust because there was times when you were like so tired, you were fatigued, and
yeah.
things just wasn't working, so it's like, it's not because of the medicine that
Literally wasn't working.
oh my god. Yeah, because of the medicine that you were taking. And I one thing I told you then that I thought, is important for us to think about in a relationship when it came to that particular issue. When he went to the next doctor's appointment, you went and talked to the doctor. You wasn't
Yeah.
like pretending like it didn't happen. We wasn't trying
Oh
to
God.
come up with another way to fix it. We straight up, you straight up, because I wasn't there. You went and told the doctor what was going on so that he would know. And the thing we thought about was
Yeah,
that
I told the doctor, I'm like, hey, doc, I said, "Is anything else you can do?" I said, man, I'm 39 years old, man. I said, man, hey, is there anything, can you help me out? Is there anything else? Is there another supplement, something else I can take besides this medication? Because this is what it's doing to me. And the doctor was able to subscribe me to something else that fixed the situation, and we were good on that end. In marriage, times like that, things like that happen. So you really have to think about this, till death does us part, because life can change. And for the thyroid, it changed overnight. It was like a snap of the finger. It just changed. And it's like, man, will this be temporary or
right,
will this be
right, right.
permanent?
I was me as a wife, I was proud of you as a man that you went to the doctor and you talked to him about that because it was an issue that caused us to adjust and change. But one thing that I was so happy for even more as a wife was that wasn't like the end all begin all for our relationship. I know we thought about, we talked about, like, wait a minute, is this something that's going to be permanent because you've been on this medication? Is this
Right.
something that because they were saying according to the doctor, they were diagnosing that you were going to be taking medicine forever, for the
Yeah.
rest of your life. And thank God for healing that you are not on medication. But even at that, just thinking about the adjusting as a spouse, we had to have that conversation. Like, what if this continues? What if this
Yeah.
happens, and how do we work through this? How do we work past this? And those
Yeah.
type of things is what sickness bring, because there's someone that could be battling cancer and you have no control over that, and
Yeah.
there is no other medicine for them to give you. So as a couple, you have to adjust, meaning,
Yeah.
during this time, it's more about that person. Just like during COVID, although there was like this whole thing that I don't want to catch COVID and I'm trying to remain negative. At the same time, on those days when you were really in pain, it was like, okay, put your mask on, gloves,
Yeah.
whatever, spray alcohol, get
Yeah.
the orange juice for him. But then, it's like in the times that you could do it for yourself completely, are you like, I'll manage? Because I remember one night you was like, no, I don't want you, I have a fever, let me do it. So all of those things, one thing that sickness does to a relationship, we're talking about in sickness and in health, a part of the marriage vows that is so important is more than
Yeah.
just a line in your vows, is more than just something you say or repeat from the pastor on your wedding day. It is the basis of a relationship. It's the basis of the marriage. It has to be in sickness and in health, meaning if you're doing, when you're bad, when you're in the midst of COVID, when you're in the midst
Yeah.
of a thyroid disease, when you're in the midst of whatever it is, cancer,
Yeah.
whatever it is, sickness and in health is, at this point, the person that is sick, they're the highest priority. You're doing what you can do to comfort them because they're the highest priority. And that causes you to have to go to a place mentally where, where we're there, we should be there for the most of our marital relationship, but even the more when the person is sick, it's not about me, it's about caring for the person. And even that, we know that you go there mentally, and you still deal with the emotional and the physical part, that your body is tired, that you may feel some type of way, or you have to talk yourself through what's going on. But the love that you have for each other, and um having the conversations, talking about what is happening with you, how are you feeling, because
Yeah.
jumping back to the COVID, and I know I'm kind of going back and forth because it's so much that I'm thinking about with both, with the thyroid and with the COVID. Both times you communicated with me how you were feeling. You
Yeah.
communicated with me the night that you were, not feeling well and you felt alone. You communicated when, you were having the erectile dysfunction, with the medication that you were on. You communicated when you had the shivers. You communicate all of those things. So just, continuing to communicate with each other and expressing what you feel from both
Yeah.
parties, it helps with that physical, emotional, mental taxing that a sickness can bring to a relationship.
Yeah. And I do, because this is crazy. I with the erectile dysfunction. I mean, even if I told that to you, I mean, I have to tell you, as a man, I felt so incomplete. I felt so inadequate. I mean, it was a horrible feeling, as a man. I'm really, just thankful, got all that corrected, and and I was able to get my mojo back. I mean, but it was very challenging. I mean, I never even knew, as a man dealing with that, how it makes you feel. So that's another aspect of it. As a wife, I mean, although you can tell your husband, "Oh, baby, it's okay, it's
Yeah,
all
yeah,
right,"
I
as
did.
a
Hmm.
man, it does not change a thing. You don't feel like a man, because every man part of you is not working. I mean, it's crazy, but it's true. I mean, those physical experiences can also affect you emotionally.
So when sickness delves upon us in any shape, form, or fashion, whether it's a wife, whether it's the husband, whether it's the fiance, the girlfriend, the boyfriend, there is what we're talking about now. There's a physical taxing to the relationship. There's an emotional taxing to the
Yeah,
relationship. There is a mental taxing to the relationship. And it's on both parts, because the person that's dealing with the sickness, they have a physical issue, they have an emotional issue, they have a mental issue, they have feelings, they have hurt, they have pain, they have the sickness in their body. But the person who loves them and who's living with them and who's caring for them, they have a
yeah,
physical, and emotional, a mental taxing as well, because they could be physical, you could be physically tired, because you're trying to care for that person, or you're physically tired because you have to maintain everything else while that person is sick. Because, like with the COVID, you were here, but I was physically maintaining everything else. And then the emotional thing is that you're emotional because your significant other is going through this, your significant other is feeling this, and it's really out of
Right.
your control. There's nothing you could do about it, but you're dealing with it. And then you're emotionally and mentally struggling with what is tomorrow going to bring? What is tonight going to bring? Is this going to get worse? Is this here to stay? Is this something we're going to be dealing with for the rest of our relationship? How do we maneuver through this? What if this happens? What if that happens? So it is a lot that you're dealing with when a sickness comes into a relationship upon either party of the relationship. And it causes so many things that we talked about physically, mentally, emotionally. And we also talked a little bit about, you talked about the vitamins and stuff when you were telling people about the vitamins, telling the listeners about the vitamins and stuff that you take for the COVID and to build your body up, even when you were dealing with the thyroid thing, the medications you began to take, and the doctor's visits and the appointments and all of that. You think about so much because there's also a financial aspect to that too,
Yes,
because
huge.
now you're, you might have to send someone to the store. Now you have to buy soup, and you got to buy medicines, and you got to buy vitamins, and you got co-pays and things of this
Yeah,
nature, and you got tests and this and this and that. And there was a lot of unexpected expenses, even from both things. With COVID, it's like, make sure you keep orange juice, make sure you keep orange juice, make sure you keep the vitamins coming, make sure I'm ordering groceries from Kroger's for to get picked up, the loved ones dropping orange juice on the porch, and all of these things. And it's like, wow, it's expenses and things that go along with it. And it's just thinking about when an illness comes up on a person, how much it affects the relationships that that person is in. And I think that us thinking about this week is giving, although we experienced it, it gave me a whole nother perspective, especially for someone who's enduring some type of sickness like cancer or something, where they've been going through this for months. They've been going through this for years, or it could, for some people, it could be a year or 2 years, because I think about the thyroid thing. And for some people, it's cancer. It's not COVID, it's cancer. And it's been 6 months, it's been 8 months, it's been 9 months. And there's a lot that has been adjusted in your life. There's a lot of unexpected
yeah,
expenses. There's physical taxing, there's emotional taxing, there's mental taxing, there's questions that's gone unanswered, and your loved one, your significant other is sick, and it brings about so much that we just don't have the answer to, and we just doing what we can do to make it through the day. Just recently thinking about the COVID, that's what we did. It was like down to the hour, because 1 hour you were fine, you were up and moving around, and within minutes it's like, I'm done. You wrapped up in a
yeah,
cover, and that's pretty much it. So now the rest of the night is, what do you need? Putting everything while you
yeah,
sleeping, trying to put everything within your reach so you can get it when you wake up. So yeah, it's a lot. Sickness
yeah,
brings about a lot.
yeah. And we dealt with two different types of sickness. For example, with the thyroid, you were still able to, nurture and be there physically for me, during the thyroid issue. But during the COVID issue, I had to deal with it by myself. So that's two different
Hmm.
experiences. And I know as the years go on, it's going to be, just more and more experiences. And here on the Marriage Coach podcast, that's what we want to talk about. We just, just different life experiences that we're dealing with, and hoping that every last one of us can find a lesson, in in our marriages, throughout the world. So, man, we again, I thank each and every one of you for your prayers. Thank you all for your support. I thank you all for all of the tips. I mean, I got tips from nurses at hospitals, telling me what type of vitamins to get. A lot of experts, sending us, text messages and emails, and really giving us information that I have to admit, it was very helpful. Some of the tips that I share with you all. I mean, there's something I had no clue. I didn't know what to do, but we had a lot of people in our life that was able to give us, all that sound wisdom. And I'm telling you, it worked. It worked. It worked. It worked. So thank you all. Thank you all so much. Remember, through sickness and in health.
For those that have, we thank you for listening. For those that have prayed for us, we thank you for that. We thank you for everything that you've done. We thank you for checking in on us. We thank you, and we want to encourage you. If your spouse is experiencing COVID-19, thyroid cancer, anything, any type of sickness, we want to encourage you. We pray that God sends you
Mm.
physical
Yes.
strength, mental strength, emotional strength to help you to hold on, whether it's your spouse or whoever it is that you in parents relationship, whatever it is. We pray that God gives you the strength to be able to hold on, the strength to make it through each day. We believe that He will, and to continue to love on each other, continue
Absolutely.
to desire to see each other do well and be well, and to think about your future and the memories that you have with each other. For those that if it's something that's terminal, it's a different thing to think about the future. But we just pray for everyone, because we have in our marriage we have endured different two different, not just two, we've endured different types of sicknesses for both of us in our marriage. And just knowing what it does and can do in relationships, we pray for all of our marriage coach listeners that you find encouragement, that you find emotional strength, mental
Yes.
strength, and physical strength to be able to
Yes.
move on through each day, one day at a time, 1 hour at a time when necessary, just to keep going. And we pray for anyone who's facing a terminal illness. We pray, God, we believe God for His best will, for His will for your life. And we thank you all for joining us today. We thank you for listening in on the Marriage Coach Podcast. What you heard in the video today was helpful to you. We invite you to subscribe and click the notification button. Give us a big thumbs up. If you're listening on iTunes, please rate the podcast and leave a review. That'll help us get the word out. We want to encourage you to head on over to our leadership podcast, Lead to Greatness, on YouTube and iTunes.
So we want to thank you so much for joining us today on the Marriage Coach Podcast. Looking forward to hanging out with you again on next week as we continue to help you take your relationship from surviving to thriving. Bye. See you next week.